Hello all. In the last video, we tried to push changes to remote repository, but we could not do it because the user we had used that time did not have right access to the remote repository, so we could not push the changes. So in this video, what we will do is we will clone a repository that is hosted on GitHub, and then we will make few changes to the repository, and post that we will push it to the repository. So while pushing, uh, we will see what kind of details you should provide, like username, password, or username token, and how authentication takes place to GitHub. So we will see those authentication details. Okay. So for first what I'll do is I'll clone a repository that is hosted on GitHub. So let me go to the folder. Yeah, if you see here, this is my personal repository that is hosted on GitHub. I'll clone this onto my desktop. So you can see this is getting cloned to Git version control directory. By default, whatever is the project name, it gets cloned to that directory only. Like you can change the directory name also by providing the argument here. So if you see here, it got cloned. Let me see. Yeah, you can see Git version control directory here, right? So let me go to Git version control and I'll do ls. So here you have this control text, version control and all. First I'll make change. So I'll go to Git control and I'll make change to control file. So what I'll make a single change. This is second line of control version. I'll save it. Let me run git status. This is already a tracked file because we cloned from the GitHub repository, and whatever files that exist on the GitHub, those are all tracked. So since you have modified a tracked file, the status gets moved to modified. Okay. Now, like either we can follow two steps to commit it, or you can follow a single step. So if you want to follow a two-step process, first you have to move this change to staging area, and then from staging area you have to commit it. So since it's already a tracked file, what you can do is directly you can follow a single step like git commit -a. -a stands for you first add the change to staging directly and then you commit it. So instead of executing two commands, you can execute a single command here. So I'll do added second line of control text file. Okay. Now, this like let me see the command. So using the log command, you can see the latest three commits. So here if you see added second line of control text file and the user is Adi Lakshmi Nagri and this is my email ID. Okay. And timestamp also you can see. Now let me try to push it to remote. Git push. So when I'm pushing, what it is saying, it is asking for username. Okay. And like if I press enter, it is asking for the password. So there are multiple ways where you can configure your credentials, because like here I can provide username and password. Okay. Now let me like, but again it will ask the second time. Let me try doing that. Git push. So my username would be my email ID. Okay. And I'll give the password. So now I'm typing my password. Okay. Password, I gave the correct password. I did not give the wrong password, but still it failed. So if you see here, support for password authentication was removed on August. So you can see the recommended. So what happens is when you try to push to the repository, user, like if you give the password, plain text password, GitHub won't accept it because password authentication is removed. So you have to use the personal access token as a password. Then only you will be able to access the GitHub. So how to do that? So you further what you have to do is you have to go to your GitHub repository and click on the profile and go to settings. Okay. And under the settings, come down and see here the developer settings. Okay. And in the developer settings, go to personal access token. So password authentication is removed. So you have to go to the GitHub and generate your personal access token and use that access token as a password. So I'll go with the classic tokens, and this I have already used. Let me delete it. I'll generate a new token. While generating the new token, I'll use a classic token. Now let me type my password. Here it generates a new personal access token for you. Okay, here if you can see, they can be used instead of your password, because by default the URLs are the HTTPS, and for HTTPS URLs you cannot authenticate using the password. So what I'll do is personal access token. PAT stands for personal access tokens, and the expiration days are 30 days. Like you can put no expiration also. I'll go with the no expiration. Yeah, since it's recommended, let me go with the default value 30 days. And here what I'll do is, for repo I need this write commit, right? So I'll do this write one. Okay, I'll have to give the credentials, like mine would be the admin. Okay, so after selecting the permissions whatever you want, you can generate the token. Now when you generate the token, like you have to copy it, because you, even here you can see the warning that you won't be able to see again. Let me copy this. Okay, so what I'll do is, I'll go to a new file and I'll copy it. Now let me authenticate using this personal access token. First I'll do git push. It asks for username, and username would be my email ID. And then it asked for the password. I'm using the token. Now here if you see, it got pushed because I used token. Let me go to this GitHub repository and see whether my change got pushed or not. So this is my project, and if you see, just 4 minutes ago I committed, and my commit message is added second line of control text file. Okay, now let me try pushing it again. Okay, I'll make another change to my control text file. Like let me add the third line. This is third line of version control. So if I run git status, it will show as a modified file. I'll add to the staging area and commit it at the same time. Now my commit message would be added third line of version text file, control text file. Okay, now done. Let me do git push. It is asking again for the username. But if you're working on a real world project, every time you make a change and every time you have to push it, it asks for username, and you have to remember your token. Like username and passwords people can remember, but tokens can't remember, right? Every time you have to provide this username and password, which is actually a tedious job. So that's why credential helper comes into picture here. So git credential helper, you can pass our like you can ask credential helper of the git to store my credentials. So what it does is, if you store your credentials and every time when you push it, it won't ask you to provide username and password again and again. Once you once you give the credential, it stores internally on Windows machine, and then it will take credentials from that and uses while pushing it. Okay, for that what you have to do is, there is a there is a property, property called credential.helper. So you can use the credential.helper. So for the credential.helper, I can use store. Let me do it. So configuration property, what I'll do is, I'll set it at the global level. So you remember, right, the global and the local levels. Like global level works for all projects that are lying under this user, whereas local works only for this git version control system. Let me go for local only. Okay, local, and the property is credential.helper. So what I'll do is credential.helper store. Now what it will do is, next time when you when you type username and password, it stores it. Okay, before doing this, let me see the list of the values that are present here. git config hyphen hyphen local. What are the local configuration variables? If you see here, you don't have this credential dot helper. Okay, you don't have this credential dot helper. Now I'll set this git config local and then a credential dot helper. What I'll do is I'll ask for store. This is my value. Let me run whether it got added to my local variables or not. Local list. If you see here, credential dot helper got like it changed to store. Okay. Now let me run git push. It will ask now because the changes gets reflected from here, right? So I have to provide here username, password. Password would be my personal access token, which I got generated on GitHub. Okay. Yeah. Now it got pushed and you can see here your changes as well. So here if you see just 3 minutes ago I added third version of control text file. Now let me make another change. Okay, and see whether it's asking for password again or not. Fourth line of version control. Okay. Now what I'll do is if I'll run git status, it will show modified. I'll commit it. -a -m added fourth line. Okay. Yeah. Added fourth line of control text file. Yeah. Now I'll try git push. So it did not ask for the password and username because you have passed the property credential.helper as store. So like you are asking Git to store the credentials and use it from on next time. Go to my users directory. So this is my users directory and here if you see there is a file that got generated. So this got generated because we given the credential.helper as store, right? So it has to store somewhere. That's how from next time it reuses the credentials we give for the first time. Let me open this file and see what is there inside it. So edit in Notepad. Here if you see before this colon name, this is my username and after this colon, this is my personal access token. So it is storing both username and personal access token as a plain text and it reuses. Okay. Yeah. That's it.